Okay, so welcome to today's lecture. Today we are going to discuss neighborhood and connectivity of pixels. Before going into the details of this topic, let us just first get some motivation to study this topic. So if you just consider this example, where you see that there are two types of pixels in this left image. There are some black pixels, there are some white pixels. And you see that some of these white pixels, if you just closely observe, they are, in some sense, adjacent to each other. They are connected to each other. But if you see some other set of white pixels here, they are not. They are connected to each other here, but they are not connected to the pixels which are in this area, right? I mean, let me just mark it. So suppose you consider this. This area, all these white pixels are adjacent to each other or connected to each other, or you can say nearby to each other. But if you compare these pixels with these pixels here, they are not connected. All right. So there are some certain applications where if we get such image, we try to find out what are the group of pixels which are connected to each other. And thus we try to find out how many total connected components are there in the image. Okay, so as you see in the process, if you let's say want to find out whether this pixel is connected to this pixel or not, or this pixel has or let's say this particular pixel has the same property what this pixel or this pixel has, what we have to do to find out what is happening in adjacent pixel, we have to consider a pixel and then we have to check for its neighborhood. We have to check the characteristics of the neighboring pixels. So that is why to find out who are the neighboring pixels, how do we define neighbor, how do we define the connectedness, how do we define the adjacency, we are studying this topic. And once we know this, we can use it for finding out or labeling the connected component in any given image of this kind. Okay, so this is the basic motivation. I think you can see another example here. So like in this example, you see there are two objects visible. Maybe you can say this is one object and this is another object. And if you let's say you can label all the pixels which are in this component, you can actually label the. If this represents a human being, then you can say that you have labeled all the pixels which are representing the human being, right? So the basic idea is to find out the connected component, and then later we can analyze those connected components and find out what exactly that object is or what that particular area represents. Okay. There is another application where this kind of neighborhood processing or computation of neighbors will be required, and that is in boundary tracing. Let's say you want to find out, this is the object given to us, and then we want to find out what are the boundary pixels here. So how do we define the boundary for any object? We can say that whenever we are at the boundary of the object, we'll find that some of its neighbors will be within the object, but some of them will be outside the object. But if you are talking about any interior pixel here, you will find that all of its neighbors will be within the object. Okay. So now how will you find out who are the neighbors for a particular pixel? So we should know how we are defining the neighborhood. Okay. So the topics that we are going to cover in this class are these. We will define what is neighborhood, and with the help of that, we'll define adjacency and connectivity. And then if we have the definition of these things, we can define path and certain more things like region and its boundary and so on. So now let us try to understand what exactly we mean by neighbor, or how do we define neighbors of a given pixel. So this is, I think, obvious that if you are talking about an image and a particular pixel in this image, then its neighbors can be all the pixels which are surrounding it, right? I mean, like normally in your your home, who is your neighbor? Then person next is staying to you. So similarly here also, who is the neighbor for this particular pixel? Maybe you can say these pixels can be its neighbors. Okay, but but these neighbors actually can be classified in different categories, and sometimes we are only interested in some particular neighbors, not all the neighbors. So, for example, when we define n4 neighbors, we are only interested in the neighbors which are in the horizontally left and right to the given pixel, or vertically up and down with respect to the given pixel. We are only interested in these 4 neighbors. So if our neighborhood definition is restricted to this definition of n4 neighbor, then actually we are only talking about these 4 neighbors. Okay, and let's say we are computing the connected component by defining our neighbors using n4 neighbors. So in this example, you can say that this red thing is not connected to this red part. You understand this point? Because you don't find any, with respect to this, pixel, you don't find this in its n4 neighbor because it is diagonally situated. So you can say that if your neighborhood definition is based on n4 neighbors, then this particular part will be a separate component, this particular part will be a separate component. But if, let's say, your neighborhood has an extended definition that we are going to discuss, then in that sense, this will be also part of the connected component that you are defining here. Okay. So in case of n4 neighbor, we are only talking about 2 horizontal and 2 vertical neighbors. In case of nd neighbors, we are only talking about the diagonal neighbors, like this one, this one, this one, and this one. So only these 4 neighbors. So n4 also has 4 neighbors, nd also has only 4 neighbors. In case of n4, you are considering left, right, and vertically up and down pixels. In case of nd, we are considering the pixels which are situated diagonally with respect to the pixel for which we are computing the neighbors. Right? So we are basically computing the neighbors for this pixel. So this, and this, they are diagonally situated with respect to this pixel. So they are falling in nd neighbors. Okay. And if we extend our definition further and define the n8 neighbors, then in that case it includes all the possible neighbors which are there surrounding the given pixel. Okay, so in case of n8, all the pixels that are here, they all are part of n8 neighbors. Okay. Now, when we define the neighborhood or the neighbors, we are only considering their location. With respect to a given point, let's say x and y that you have here, this is x and y. For x and y, you can define what are its n4 neighbors. One will be up, another will be here down, one will be here left, and another will be here at the right. So you can say that with respect to x and y, these neighbors will have coordinates x plus 1 y, x minus 1 y, or x y plus 1, or x y minus 1. You can just check that. And if you compute the distance of these neighbors from the given pixel, from this central pixel for which we are computing the neighbor, you will find that the distance is 1. Right? Because, if you, let's say this is x comma y plus 1, and the central pixel is xy, so the difference between them is just 1. And similarly, it is true for all other neighbors. Similarly, for the nd neighbors, the coordinates can be computed, and you will find that those coordinates will be, these coordinates x plus 1, y plus 1, x plus 1, y minus 1, x minus 1, y plus 1, and x minus 1 and y minus 1. You can just compute, assuming that central pixel has a coordinate x plus y. Sorry, x comma y. And if you compute the distance of central pixel to these pixels, you will find that it will be 1.414 or root 2 basically, because if you're computing this distance, it will be this, you will have a right angle triangle like this, and this is one distance, this is one distance, so you will see that this will be root 2. And similarly for other neighbors, and root 2 is equal to 1.414. So you'll see that in case of any neighbors, any neighbor for a given point is 1.414 distant. Okay. In case of 8 neighbors, you will have 2 vertical, 2 horizontal, and all 4 diagonal neighbors. And some of the neighbors will have distance 1, and other which are at the diagonal, they will have neighbors. The distance root 2, which is 1.41. 414. Okay. If you just put all the definitions here, you say with respect to P, your N4 will be here, 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 and here, and NDs will be at the diagonals. Okay. Now, when we are defining the neighborhood, we are only talking about physical distance. So, if anybody, any pixel which is just next to this pixel situated here, you will say that this is its neighbor. Okay, but when we define the adjacency, in some sense, I mean, the word adjacency also means that somebody who is adjacent to you. But when we define adjacency, we also, consider the brightness or the intensity or the gray level of the pixels that we are considering. And in adjacency, basically, we will not consider two pixels adjacent to each other, though they are neighbor to each other, if they do not, if they have very different intensity. If they have only similar intensity, then only we will say that they are adjacent to each other. Otherwise, we will say that they are not adjacent to each other. So when we define adjacency, we have to, the two pixels for which we are defining the adjacency, they need to be first neighbor, because if they are not neighbor, then they cannot be adjacent. But along with being neighbors, they also need to satisfy a criteria for gray levels. Some intensity criteria, some brightness criteria, they should satisfy. Okay. For example, in case of binary image, we can very easily say that two points can be, or two pixels can be only considered neighbors if they have either one brightness or zero brightness, because these are the only possibilities. If one has 0, one has 1, then obviously we can say that they are not similar. All right. So for binary image, it's very simple to say that two pixels can be considered adjacent if they are neighbors and they have either one intensity or zero intensity, because in case of binary image, please remember that the pixel intensity will be either 0 or 1. The binary image will not have the variations. Either it will be black and white image, completely black and white. So either 0 or 1. Or if you are representing your pixels in the range of, let's say, 0 to 255, so you can say that this will be 0 and white will be 255, like that. So it's simple to define adjacency in this case, but let's say we want to define adjacency when we have a lot of gray labels. So then to define the adjacency, first we define a set V of the gray labels, and once this set is defined with the help of what kind of neighborhood you are considering, whether you are considering 4 neighborhood or you are considering 8 neighborhood. And we'll also say there is one more, adjacency we'll talk about here is M adjacency. So depending upon the neighborhood that we are considering, we can define the adjacency given this set V. Okay, so let us see the definition of the adjacency. So we say that two pixels P and Q with values from V are 4 adjacent if Q is in the set of N4P. So basically what we are saying is that you have a central pixel P at the middle here, and we are saying that Q will be 4 adjacent if, let's say if Q is here, this Q can be 4 adjacent to P if this Q is in N4P. So obviously this Q is in N4P. And second, the intensity of P and intensity of Q both are coming from set V. All right. So let's say we assume that V contains the intensities from 120 to, let's say, 130. So if P and Q have intensities between these values, and let's say this is there's a set where you have 120, 121, 122, 123, like that, because these are integers. So this set, when contains values from 120 to 130, P and Q can be considered 4 adjacent only if Q is in N4P, and the intensity of Q and intensity of P both are coming from set V. All right. So when we say that both the intensities are coming from set V, we basically mean that they both have similar kind of intensities. Because when we define the set V, we don't take a very large interval here. Because if you take the large interval, then there is no meaning of defining V, because then it will contain, too many variations and two different variations. So that is why always this V set will be a small set. And from that set, if the pixels are taking the intensities, then we can consider them adjacent, provided they satisfy the neighborhood criteria. Okay, so if you have understood 4 adjacency, then I think it is simple to extend it for the 8 adjacency. It is simple. In case of now saying N4 neighbors, now we are talking about N8 neighbors. Okay, so any pixel can be 8 adjacent if it is lying in any of the positions here all around P, and its intensity is coming from set V. And obviously P is also coming from V. The intensity of P is also coming from V, and intensity of Q is also coming from V. Okay. Now there's a new kind of adjacency that we defined here. It's called the mixed adjacency, and let us see how it is defined. So here we say that given 2 pixels P and Q, whose intensity is coming from V, they will be called M adjacent if either of these 2 conditions are satisfied. What is the first condition? It says that Q need to be in N4P. That means Q should be N4 neighbor of P, and the intensity of P and Q should come from V. If that is satisfied, then we can say that Q is M adjacent to N. Okay. The second condition says that if, let's say, Q is not in N4, that means it is not situated left, right, up, down. It is situated diagonally with respect to P, then it can be considered M adjacent, provided N4P and N4Q, they do not have any common thing. Their intersection is empty. Okay, what exactly this mean? If you see this example, suppose we are considering point P. So with respect to this point P, all the X here, all these X are N4 neighbors of P. Okay. Now let us say we are defining, we are saying that P and Q are M adjacent. So here we see that P has all these neighbors X, 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 X. And what are the neighbors of Q? Q has neighbors O, you can say O, and O here. Okay. And if you take the intersection of these 2 sets, you find that you get some overlap here. There is an overlap here, or there is overlap here. Okay. And this is what we are saying in the definition, that there shouldn't be any overlap. So when you are defining, M adjacency with respect to second definition, then in that case N4P and N4Q should not have anything in common. That means this intersection should be empty. So that is why in this example we cannot say that P and Q are M adjacent. Okay, but if suppose this P is not here, this point P is not here, it is maybe somewhere here, then based on that we can, though they will not be adjacent because they are far apart. There we have to again apply different criteria, because then again you have to see what are the points in its neighborhood. But at least for this example, if this we are considering this P and this Q, this P and Q, they will not be considered M adjacent. All right. So this basically means that if you are defining any pixel Q adjacent to P in diagonal direction, you shouldn't have anything here and here. Okay. Now, how does it help actually? When you say that there's nothing here and here, it basically helps in defining unique paths. Later we'll see that we'll define a unique path. So let us consider that you have a pixel P here. Now you have something here and here as well. So to reach from this point to this point, you have two ways. Either you can go directly like this, or you can take this path, you can go here and then you can go here. Right? You can go first up and then you can go, you can travel towards right. or you can directly go in the diagonal direction. So there are, I mean, if you consider both these options, then you will see that you will not be able to define a unique path. So just to have a unique path, we are just imposing this condition when we are defining the adjacency. Okay. Now, as we define the adjacency, we can just simply extend it to connectivity. The definition is similar. We can say 2 pixels are 4 connected, or 8 connected, or m connected, if they exactly satisfy the condition that we define for the adjacency. So in some sense, you can say that they both are same thing. Connectivity or adjacency, they both give us the same kind of information. Okay. Now here in this example, you can say that wherever you have put red point, you can say that those pixels are 8 adjacent. But wherever the dot is there, they are not 8 adjacent, they are m adjacent. And see, we have not considered this point and this point m adjacent, because this dotted line is not there. Only this pixel is m adjacent, and with respect to this pixel is m adjacent, but this diagonal thing is not there. And the reason is that we have something common here. If this pixel would have been, let's say, 0, then we would have been able to define the connectivity between connectivity or adjacency between this pixel here and this pixel directly using this diagonal. Okay. So I hope everything is clear till this point. Anybody has any question? Okay. So let us move forward. Now, whatever definitions we have given till now, in that we are only considering the immediate neighbor. We are considering a point P, and whatever Q we are defining, it is in the neighborhood. Whether we are defining simple neighbor, or we are defining adjacency or connectivity, we are talking about the immediate neighbor. But now, if we extend this definition of connectivity or adjacency, we can define paths between the pixels. So we can say that if there is a pixel P given, which is at x comma y, and pixel Q given, which has let's say coordinate s comma t, then we can define a path from xy to st as a set of pixels like this, where every value that you are seeing here is the coordinate for a pixel. So the path between P and Q defined with the help of set of these coordinate these coordinates. Provided this first coordinate tells you the starting point, and the last coordinate tells you the ending point or the end pixel. First point tells you the start pixel, and in between whatever you have, like x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3, they are adjacent to each other. So if you are considering any xy or xi, yi, it should be adjacent to its previous pixel xi minus 1, yi minus 1 in the set. So like, let's say if you are including x2, y2 in the set and saying that this will be in the path which is defined between P and Q, then this x2, y2 should be adjacent to x1, y1. Similarly, if you are defining x3, y3, you are adding x3, y3 here, then x3, y3 should be adjacent to x2 and y2, and so on. So if we have the set of these kind of pixels, collectively they can tell you the path between the two given pixels. And what will be the path length? You just count how many pixels you have hopped, how many pixels you have cropped while going from one pixel to another pixel. That will tell you the length. Okay. Now, based on these definitions, we can give further more definitions. So we can define the connected pixels, and we can say that if P and Q are pixels of an image subset S, then P is connected to Q in S if there is a path from P to Q and consisting entirely the pixels which are in S. Okay, so basically it says that, you have a pixel, this is let's say a set S. This area, let's say, define these set of pixels which are in S, and there is a pixel P here, and there is a pixel Q here, and you want to say that they are connected to each other, they are connected pixels, then there should be a path from P to Q which connects them. Okay, and by saying that entirely it should be in S, this means when you are going from P to Q, this path should contain all the pixels which are in this box only. So let's say there is a path which takes you from this point to this point like this, then this cannot be, this cannot tell you that the pixel P and Q are connected. Okay, because when you are going from P to Q through this path, you are not entirely within this box. You are going outside the box. So that is why they, in that sense, I mean, in that case, we will not say that P and Q are connected. But if you can define a path from P to Q by going through the pixels which are within S, then that can tell whether the P and Q are, I mean, basically that will tell that P and Q are connected, because, I mean, you have a path from P to Q entirely within S. Okay. You can extend this definition and define connected component. So for every pixel P in S, like every pixel P in this set, let's say S, this set of all the pixels in S that are connected to P and the connected component. So for example, in your image, there is a pixel here, and you find that there are a lot of other pixels which are connected to this pixel. For example, let's say this pixel is connected to this pixel. So then this will be part of the connected component defined using this pixel. Similarly, let's say there's another pixel here which is connected to this particular pixel. So then this will be also part of the same component. And similarly, there's another pixel here. It will be also part of the same component, and so on. So for any given pixel P, just find out what are the other connected pixels with respect connected pixels to P, and that will collectively, if you put all those pixels together, then that will define a connected component. Sometimes you will find that the connected component that you are defining in your image contains all the points that you have in an image. That means there's only one connected component, then it can be called connected set. Okay. So in case of connected set, the entire image has just one component. You don't have multiple components, you have just one component. But if you have multiple components, then you will have connected components. The set will not call connected set. Okay. Yeah. You can see these those examples here again. So based on our definition, given this image, we can find out how many connected components are here. And normally, whenever we find the connected components, all the pixels which belong to one component, we label or we color them with one color, and the other pixels which are from the other component, we give the other color, just to just for the visualization. And in terms of processing, we can assign any label to these pixels, but the label should be same. So suppose, for example, for red, you can say that all these pixels are defined by label 1, all these pixels are defined by label 2. Okay, so whenever any pixel intensity value is 1, then you can say that it's one component, and if it has a different value, let's say 2, so all the pixels where the value is 2, they will define the another component. So in this example, this is the given image, and then when you do the connected component labeling, we find that there are two components. One is a human being here, and then other is some other object adjacent to that object. So there are two components in both these cases. Now with these definitions again, we can define a few more things like region of the image. So a subset R of pixels in an image is called region of the image if R is a connected set. When we define connected set, it is more like a mathematical definition. But when we define region, it is actually, kind of connected set only. But when we talk about something physical, we talk in terms of region and boundaries and things like that. So, there's no difference in some sense you can say between region and R, but region is like more towards what we use in day-to-day life. So with the help of connected set, we can define the region R. So any subset R of pixels in an image R can be called region of the image if R is a connected set. Okay. And what was the connected set in the previous slide we saw? The connected set was the set where there was only one connected component. Okay. How do we define the boundary of any region? So as I mentioned at the beginning, any pixel, if you call any pixel as the boundary pixel for any region, if you compute its neighbors, you will find that some of its neighbor will be outside the region. So if you, consider a region and process all the pixels of that region and find any pixel which is having some of its neighbors not within the region, then we can say that those pixels are the boundary pixels. Okay. What will happen if, let's say, R is the entire image? You have only one. Entire image is just defining the R region R. How will you define its boundary? So in this case, like here, you are saying that all the pixels will not be in R; they may be in some other region. But in this case, we can say that there are some of the pixels which are not defined, or some of the neighbors which are not defined. Because if the R is your entire image, and if you process at the boundary, then you will find that there are some. For all the boundary pixels, in fact, you will find that some of their neighbors are not even present; they are not defined. Okay. So when R becomes the entire image, you can, to find out the boundary, you can use a definition or you can use the criteria of pixels, and any pixel which does not have any neighbor which defined, or in other way you can say if you have any pixel for which there are some neighbors which are not defined, then that can be also considered as the boundary pixel. Okay. Now, by using the adjacency of pixels P and Q, we can define adjacency of image subsets. So, for example, you have two image subsets here, S1 and S2, and you want to say that they are adjacent to each other. That means this region or this subset and this subset, they are adjacent to each other. So, to define that, we have to find out that there are pixel P and Q in these regions which are actually adjacent to each other. So if you find some pixel P and Q connected in these two regions, then we can say that they are adjacent to each other. So the definition says that two image subset S1 and S2 are adjacent if some pixel in S1 is adjacent to some pixel in S2. If you can find out just a few pixels which are adjacent to each other from these sets S1 and S2, then you can consider that these subsets are adjacent to each other. Okay, so till now we have defined the neighborhood, or with the help of neighborhood, certain other characteristics of the pixels. Now, let us see how do we perform the operations on these pixels. So now, when we perform the operations on the pixels, we will perform operation two ways. Either we will just consider one pixel and then we'll do some operation on that pixel, or to compute something at a particular pixel, we'll not only consider the information from that pixel, but we'll consider the information from neighboring pixels too. So those two ways of processing the pixels we are going to see now. All these examples that you see here, in these examples, when we are operating at a particular pixel, we are only using the intensity of that pixel. So, for example, here, when we are doing addition of, let's say, two images, we are taking one pixel from one image, and let's say, you can say the corresponding pixel from the another image, and we are just adding their intensities and getting a new intensity. So, if you have a, let's say, image I1 here like this, and another image I2 here, and at the same location in I1 and I2, let's say you have pixel P and Q. This is P, let's say at 50, 50 location. Similarly, here also you have a pixel Q at the same location 50, 50. So you can, when you are saying that you are adding P and Q, this basically means whatever value you have for P here and whatever value you have for Q here, you are just adding them. So let's say P was 100. And Q was, let's say, 50, and when you are adding them, you will get the result in 150, right? Just because you are doing P plus Q. Similarly, for the subtraction, when you are saying P minus Q, you take the intensity of pixel P, you take the intensity of pixel Q, and just subtract them. So if suppose you are doing P minus Q, so in this case you will get 100 minus 50, which is 50. Similarly, for the multiplication, P into Q, so whatever value you have for P, whatever value you have for Q, you just multiply them and you will get the value for P into Q. And similarly for the division, take the value of P and take the value of Q and then just divide them. And obviously when you are dividing P by Q, Q should not be 0. If it is 0, then the division will not be defined. So let's say if you are implementing these operations, then you should be careful and put a condition in your code. And whenever you have Q 0, you should say that the value of division is not defined. You can also perform some logical operations. These were like simple arithmetic operations, but you can also perform logical operations like AND, OR, and NOT. And these operations, when we say logical, it means binary, 0 and 1, but this can be also extended for the gray level images. For simple binary images, you can say that P and Q will give 1 if P and Q both are 1. They will give 0 if either of them are 0, and so on. AND, OR, and NOT you can define for given binary image. Okay. Now, one thing actually you need to remember here that whenever you are defining these operations, or whenever you are computing on your images given these operations, let's say you are saying that I image is obtained by adding corresponding pixels of I1 plus I2. Okay. And let us say in your implementation, image is defined using 8 bits. So you know that if you are defining your image by 8 bits, what is the maximum variation you can have, or what is the maximum grayscale value you can have for this?
255.
Yeah, you can have just 255. So, but let's say you are adding 2 pixels where you have this pixel having value 200 and this pixel having value, let's say 150. So then what is the resultant you are going to get? 350. So obviously 350 cannot be represented in 8 bits. If you are trying to represent 350 in 8 bits, you will lose something. Like the representation that you are going to store, or the value that you are going to store will not be 350, it will be something else. All right. Similarly, it will happen maybe like when you are doing subtraction P minus Q, the value may not go beyond 255, but the value may be negative. Okay, so what to do in those cases? Very often when you are computing P into Q, the value will be very large, and that will be more than 255. In division, it's fine. In division also, sometimes you have to see if suppose you are getting the fractional value, what should you do? So whenever you are performing these operations, P and Q, you should be actually very careful about the largest value that you are going to get. So how to handle that? So there can be various ways. For example, there can be various criteria to handle this situation. One could be truncation, where whatever value you are getting more than 255, you just truncate it to 255 or bring it down to 255. Or whatever value you are getting beyond 0, other side, all the negative values, you can say that they all become 0. Okay, so this is one way to make sure that everything that you get after computation lies between the range 0 and 255. Okay, this is one way. Another maybe little better way could be the scaling of the values. So let's say you after performing the operation, you find the values between, let's say, -5 to 300. Then you can define a scaling operation which scales it down to 0 to 255. So in that case, you will find that the relative variations that you are finding between the pixels, that will be a bit natural. If you are just truncating blindly, then you may find that natural appearance of the image is lost. Okay, but this the method that I'm talking about for scaling the values down, I will talk in detail in subsequent classes. Right now, just you can remember that it can be handled. It need to be handled. First, we need to remember this, and then there can be certain ways of handling this, and some of them could be what we just discussed. Okay. So, yes.
Sir, what are the application of this arithmetic operations with respect to this image processing? Because if we do successive additions, so we may get totally white image, or if we do successive subtractions, we may get purely black image.
Yeah. No, so we'll see. So for example, let's say you have two images where you have two kinds of connected components. let's say these are the 2 frames of the videos.
Yes, sir.
And you want to, let's say, merge the information from them, and you want to get some unified information.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in such case, these operations might be useful. Okay. Or sometimes, let's say, in video, you want to subtract the background. Whatever you have in your image, in that image, you just want to retain the foreground object. You want to remove all the background.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for example, you have taken 2 pictures, one picture with the person, another picture without the person. So
Yes,
if you subtract the image of a person by the image where the person is not there, you will get the object which is the person, right? So in background subtraction, like for example, you can use the subtraction operation.
Okay,
Is
sir.
that clear? Yeah. So there are some applications where these operations will be useful. Okay, but so one thing is common in all these operations, that when we are performing these operations for given 2 images, we are only when we are operating at a particular pixel, we are considering the intensity of that particular pixel. We are not considering the intensities of neighboring pixels. Now, in the next way of processing, we don't, whenever we are processing at a particular pixel, we don't consider just that pixel, but we also consider the information from the neighboring pixel. Okay, so this is called the neighborhood processing, or neighborhood-based processing, or neighborhood-based operations. Because here, to compute new value for P, we are considering the pixels which are surrounding the value, surrounding that particular pixel. In this case, suppose, as I said, that this, let's say the location of this pixel was 50, 50. So to get the new value of 50, 50 pixel in the new image, we are considering 50, 50 value from this pixel, this image, and 50, 50 value from this image, right? Only one value. But in this case, we are not considering only 50, 50, but we are also considering the area surrounding that 50, 50 pixel, right? Now, how much area you are considering, that will, depends on, that will vary from application to application. But let us say, for simple example, we are considering the immediate neighbors. So in this case, let's say you want to operate on P5, then we are considering to get the new value of P5 after performing this operation, we want to take the information from all the surrounding pixels. Now, normally, whenever we accumulate the information from the surrounding pixels, we normally add the values of the pixels. Sometimes we'll see, you may subtract also, but in the simple case, we can consider where you are just adding the values of all these neighboring pixels to get a new value. Now, when you are adding, you are not adding exactly the value that you have. You want to also give some weightage to these pixels. Let's say you want to say that this pixel is more important for me to compute new value for P5. This pixel, let's say in the diagonal, the pixels are not very important, but the pixels which are up and down, left, right, they are more important. So relatively, you can actually assign weight to these pixels. And when we are adding all the surrounding pixels to get new value for the central pixel, these intensities that you have in P1, P2, P3, P4, and so on, they are weighted by these weights. And whatever weighted value we get, like for P1, the weighted value is W1 P1. Similarly, for P2, the weighted value is W2 P2, and so on. Whatever these weighted values we get, we add them to get the new value for P. Okay, sometimes we take the average, so whatever number of values we have added, just we divide by the total count, and we get the average of it. So the important thing that you have to take from here is that for this processing, we are considering a neighborhood. Now, all those questions that why we are adding them here, why we are giving the weights and all that, all those things actually we'll discuss in detail in the later classes. Okay, these are some operations actually where this kind of processing will be actually useful, like smoothing, when we are when we are smoothing image, or when we are doing noise removal, or we doing edge detection, or contrast enhancement. In all these cases, when you consider the intensity, or when you operate on a particular pixel, in most of these operations, we consider a neighborhood. Okay. There might be some cases, like for example, in contrast enhancement, the technique based on histogram equalization, that may be considering the point operation, but in most of the other operations that you see here, we make use of the neighborhood. Okay. Now, when we are considering the neighborhood, as I just said, there are certain things that you have to define. The first thing is like what should be the weights, what weights you should give. whether they all should get equal weight or they should get different weight, or if they are different, then what should be the different value, and so on. So how to define weights? This is one one parameter that need to be determined before performing that operation. Similarly, the size of the window, how many neighbors we should consider, whether we should consider the 3 class 3 neighbor or we should consider 5 class 5 neighbor, and so on. And what we need to do when we are computing at the boundary, since our computation is based on neighborhood. If the let's say neighborhood is not defined, what to do, and that is the case which happens at the boundary. At the boundary, the neighbors are not completely defined. So how to handle those cases? So one operation is that you don't compute at the boundaries. That means all the boundary pixels you just leave, because for them the neighborhood is not completely defined. Or second is that you can assume that there is a imaginary set of pixels surrounding the image having zero values, zero intensity. That means you can extend your image and then you can calculate at the boundary. Sometimes by observing the periodicity of the image, we create a new row and column in the image to operate at the boundary pixel. Sometimes we do extrapolation based on the previous pixels which are there in the image just near the boundary. So by using these ways, we can handle the boundaries. Yeah, and with this, let us conclude this talk. And in the next class, again, we'll see some more operations again related to image processing.